All right, good morning and happy Tuesday. Welcome back to our Easter story. So, we've been going through the resurrection eggs, and yesterday we talked about how Jesus was beaten and whipped, and the people were the ones who blamed him and found him guilty and decided to crucify him because Pilate kind of turned him over to the people for what they were going to do. And the soldiers mocked him with the robe and the crown of thorns, saying that he was a king. So let's take a minute and let's open up our eggs for today. So our first egg we're opening up to snails and a cross in the shape of a cross. So Jesus was made to carry his own cross that he was going to be nailed to, and he had to carry it and take it all the way up. So I'm going to just read to you a little excerpt from here. It says, Jesus was led away to die. Under Jewish law, he had to be killed outside the city gates. The Roman soldiers made him carry the heavy wooden cross to a place called Golgotha. A mocking crowd followed, and Jesus, weak from being questioned and beaten, stumbled beneath the weight of the cross. A broad-shouldered man was there called Simon, who had come from North Africa for Passover. And the soldiers grabbed him. "Carry the cross for the prisoner," they called, "or we'll never get there." Simon helped Jesus for the rest of the way to Golgotha. Then the words, "The King of the Jews," was written on the cross. When they reached the hill, the soldiers laid Jesus down on the cross and hammered nails through his feet and wrists. Jesus said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not realize what they're doing." 2 robbers were put on crosses on either side of him. The crosses were set into the ground and lifted up so that the men would die from heat and thirst. It was 9 o'clock in the morning. So the soldiers sat down and began gambling with dice to pass the time until the prisoners died. When the religious leaders arrived, they taunted, "You saved others, but you can't save yourself." Then one of the 2 robbers called out, "Aren't you the chosen one? Save yourself and us." "Don't say that," interrupted the other robber. "We are both getting what we deserve, but this man has done nothing wrong." Then turning toward Jesus, he said, "Remember me when you reach your kingdom." "Today you will be with me in paradise," replied Jesus. Some of Jesus' friends were there crying. Jesus whispered down to John, "Look after my mother and be a son to her." At midday, the sun should have been at its brightest. The sky turned black, and Jesus called out, "My God, why have you deserted me?" By 3 o'clock, he gasped, "I'm so thirsty." A soldier soaked a sponge in sour wine and held it up to moisten Jesus' dry lips. Then in a clear voice, Jesus said, "It's finished." At that moment, back in Jerusalem, the curtain in the temple was torn in two. At Golgotha, Jesus bowed his head and died. So, I just want to show you the picture from the darkest day. His mother Mary, and you can see the crown of thorns, the nails, is crying, and he asked John, and there's the guards to watch over him. So, he could see his mom crying. He was hung on the cross. It was really a difficult time. I can't even begin to imagine. And he felt alone. And remember earlier on we read how because of him having to take on the sin of all of us, God would have to leave him in order for him to be able to die in that moment. So the sun disappeared behind a huge great cloud at noon. Cold crept and darkness covered the world. Jesus closed his eyes. He bowed his head. He took one last breath. And at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, in that cold and darkness, Jesus died. The wind howled. The whole earth trembled. The rocks shattered. The hills quaked. And the mighty curtain of the temple split in two. And it split in two from top to bottom. So nobody pulled it and split it. But Jesus was still. It was finished. So he did exactly what he came to do. And it was a dark, sad day. It was Friday. And that's what we call Good Friday. So this coming Friday is Good Friday to celebrate when Jesus took on the ultimate sacrifice for us to help us to be forgiven from our sins. So I want to take a minute and read the love letter from God. Dear friends, shall I tell you a secret? When Jesus was crying on the cross, I was crying too. When those nails were hurting Jesus, I was hurting too. When Jesus felt all alone, I felt all alone too. And when my son died, part of me died too. But guess what? Death does not win in this story. Life wins. Love wins. My promise to Jesus was nothing could separate him from my love, and that is the same promise I give to you. Love God. So, a few little steps after, what happened is, after Jesus died on the cross, the soldiers came and they broke the legs of the first and the other that had been crucified with him. So the robbers, they broke their legs, make kind of a way of making sure they were dead. But when they came to Jesus, they saw that he was already dead. So they didn't break his legs. But one of the soldiers pierced his side with a spear. And once and all at once there came out blood and water. So here's a spear out of our last egg. Not our last egg. I'm sorry, this is not our last egg. Last egg for Jay, because we're doing 2 eggs. The spear to pierce it and all the blood came out. And that's when one of the soldiers realized, truly, this was the Son of God. So, we have some more to our story for what comes next, because now Jesus has died on the cross. And it's Good Friday, so this coming Friday is what we call Good Friday. But there's some more that happens on Friday, and we will talk about that tomorrow on Wednesday, okay? So, hope you're enjoying the story so far. It's getting pretty intense, and if you have a Bible that you can read along to, I can share with you. A lot of this is in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, because they were all witnesses to what was happening. So you can find it. I know the crucifixion is in Mark chapter like 15, 14, 15, somewhere in there. So you can read along with the parent if you want to. If you have this Bible right here, you can turn into the New Testament. And it is on page, the whole Easter story pretty much starts on page 321 with a colt. But like what we just read, it doesn't go as into much detail. But what we just read would have been Skull Hill. All right. And then also, there's more in here. The Day by Day Bible. So where we were. Close to the cross. The King of the Jews, page 620. Skull Hill is what they call the hill, too, where Jesus died. So that's all up in there as well. Like I said, there's a lot. There's a lot of detail. There's a lot of stuff happening. That's why and it's huge. It's so well recorded of what happened, because this is history. This is our history, right? And it truly is amazing just what Jesus did. He was willing to die for you and for me, so we could have a place in heaven. All right, friends. Anyway, I'll catch you tomorrow. Bye.